One of the traits that I've always tried to have, maybe I shouldn't say always, but one trait that I've been trying to have is just a sense of honesty about myself when it comes to my insecurity. Because, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting that you're insecure or that you may be insecure about this thing or another thing. I think it's far more dangerous to not admit that you're insecure, which may seem like an obvious truth, right? But like, there's someone in my life, right, where we kind of had like a back and forth. We're not going to get into the details because I don't want to make it a whole thing in case they watch my video, right? Where they made it clear, right, to other people, oh, I hate arguing with insecure people, right? After like something I said, right, that wasn't, I didn't personally think it was really that crazy, like of an insult, where I just thought that they got generally annoyed, unnecessarily so, by something that wasn't that serious. But the thing that got me about it was not the fact that he said I was insecure, because it's like I don't really mind the fact that I'm insecure. Well, I mean, I mind in the sense that I would rather not be insecure, but I think it's more dangerous not to admit it. And I found that I felt as though when he said that, complaining about how I was insecure, I felt as though it's like, well, aren't you insecure as well? Like, is there anything wrong with admitting that? And I find oftentimes that the people who kind of struggle with insecurity the most are the ones who kind of mask it or like to say that they don't. But I honestly think one of the best pathways to getting over being insecure is to generally just acknowledge, yeah. Because to me, like, let's look at insecurity as though it's like a weakness, right? So let's say you go to the gym, right? You suck at the gym. You can barely lift 20 pounds. It feels like 10,000 pounds. The most you can do is 10 pounds, right? So before you even admit or even get to the point of being strong in the gym, you kind of have to admit that you're weak in order for you to prove. And it's like, I feel like that's how I am with my insecurities personally, is that I know I'm going to get better because I acknowledge that I am insecure. Like, I don't think there's any other way for me to escape getting past that point, unless I just, pour the cold water over my face and just say, hey, I'm insecure. Or like when you're at the gym, hey, I'm weak. I need to get stronger. Because I feel like as men, I feel like we're kind of not really, and I could say the same thing about women, I guess, but honestly, I'm speaking for men in particular here. I feel like as men, we're constantly told not to show the chips in our armor. Like, I know it's a common thing that men can't show our emotions, but like, it almost creates in a lot of men this delusional sense of self pride that, oh, well, I'm not insecure because insecurity is a form of weakness. But like, admitting to the weakness is not the same as succumbing to it or giving into it. And I find like I just want to be a person who can kind of acknowledge where I fail. And if you call me insecure, it's like, yeah, I am. It's like I'm freaking 23 years old. Of course I'm insecure. Like, I don't always understand things the best way other people do, but I think I'm gonna get better at that. So like, if you're worried about whether you're insecure, being called insecure, I feel like admit that you're insecure and just move past it. Try to understand why you feel insecure and understand where that insecurity comes from. Because like this year, I'm really trying to work to actually be a better me and truly be for me, because I feel like a lot of insecurity also comes from comparison. Like, of course, they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I find when it comes to insecurity, we're insecure because a lot of times because we want people to like us. That's not all insecurity, but I find a lot of insecurity is rooted in the joy or the desire to be liked by others. But like, the question should always be asked, do you actually want to be liked because because you actually are doing a good job, like because you're a good person, or do you just want to be liked for being the sake of life liked? Because I find that a lot of times you can be liked for being the sake of like, but that doesn't mean that your character is of quality or that you're a good person. Not saying that everyone who is likable is secretly evil and has no character. My point is to say is like, if you are to be liked, make sure that you're liked for the right reasons and because you were authentically you and that you did wrong. And if you're disliked, understand that, are you disliked for reasonable reasons? Like, are you disliked because you're just like a dirtbag, or are you disliked because, oh, I don't like him because he's weird? Make sure that you're disliked for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. And likewise, make sure that you're liked for the right reasons and understand that you'll be loved in spite of all those reasons, that there are people who love you regardless. So, yeah, I think if you're insecure, just own it. Just be, and be insecure. It's fine. Just become better from that. But I don't think it's a bad thing to be insecure, especially at a young age. All of us are. I'm just the first one to admit it. Anyways, y'all have a great day.